Very pleased now to be joined by the one, the only, internationally famous. In fact, I'm sure he's famous in other galaxies, other solar systems. A great friend of mine, somebody who makes all of us smarter at SB Nation, one of my favorite colleagues, one of my fearless leaders, actually, in some respects. But we'll keep that a little bit closer to the vest. From Acme Packing Company, SB Nation's home for Green Bay Packers content. It is Justis Mosqueda. Justis, how goes it?
It's going good. A lot of people are saying infamous, not famous, but
I don't.
I take it where I can get it.
Do you think anybody can be both? I feel like because it's not one or the other.
Oh, I feel like Kanye West right now. Right? It's
That's a
probably
really
both.
good
It's
answer.
pretty good. The first name that comes to mind.
That's
So
a
yeah,
really good
I
answer.
think you could be both.
People can hear you on the SB Nation NFL show every Wednesday. I highly recommend that. You, KP, and Stats in the Gauntlet. I've been meaning to ask who came up with it. I don't want to give Stats the credit if he did.
It's stats.
That's
It's
stupid.
stats. I
That
hate to give
sucks.
him the credit, but yeah,
Yeah, it's a
we were
really
just
cool
talking
idea.
about things, and then we argue. Me and KP get to argue, and then Steven just comes in, breaks the third wall, fourth wall, and is just like, "Yeah, I get to break ties today." He had a big smile on his face because we got to let him pick Patrick Mahomes on a couple tiebreakers. So
I actually just saw the tweet, the promotional tweet that we had go out. Debo Samuel on the episode with y'all. So
yep.
a must listen for the latest episode of the SB Nation NFL show. We were talking right before we started recording. You saw my Houston Astros shirt. The podcast audience isn't seeing this. I love the Astros. Super pumped. Obviously, great time. Everything's gone to my head. It's awesome. A title against the city of Philadelphia Justice just is so sweet. I can't tell you like the euphoria that I am feeling right now. That's coursing through my veins. But all throughout the World Series, you were saying that you don't watch a lot of baseball. There were all sorts of Fox promotions for this week's Cowboys-Packers game.
I
Despite
saw
the
you
fact that,
tweet about that.
yeah,
Yeah, you're like 2 weeks from now. They're promoting this Packers
right,
Cowboys
because
game.
it was last week, and so it was obviously it's America's game of the week. So you got Burkhardt, Olsen, and Aaron Andrews there. Despite the fact that they were in Detroit this past week, like nobody cared about that game.
For a 10 a.m. game, they sent their number one crew. Crazy.
It's very strange how they just dismissed that, and Burkhardt is like a part of the World Series coverage. It was very strange. But so I tweeted something out about that, and everybody's like, America's team, whatever. You quote tweeted it and said our World Series. So if anyone who doesn't follow you on Twitter, I highly recommend. But I can never tell, and that's because I know you, where you're being sarcastic. So a few different times this season, you have referred to this game as your Super Bowl, your World Series. I ask you, is it really like, do you really care? Do you really want to beat Mike McCarthy? Because the presence or the vibes I'm getting are that this is like every Packers fan is checked out. Every Packers fan has kind of waved the white flag and surrendered, but you don't seem to be that way.
Okay. This is how the season is. I can't explain my emotions on this game without explaining how the season has gone for us, right? The team starts off, what was it, 3-1? I think that's the last win.
Right, before
against
the 5-game losing streak.
5-game losing streak. Everyone gets mad at me because after that game against the Patriots, where Bailey Zappi, remember, Bailey Zappi hadn't had any practice, third quarterback, first game he was ever activated for a game, comes off the bench almost immediately for Brian Hoyer, takes the Packers into overtime. I'm like, this Packers team isn't very good. Everyone's pointing and laughing at me. They're like, I can't believe it. They're 3-1. What would you, they're winning games? It doesn't matter how many points they score. Would you rather be the Detroit Lions? Was some of the comments that I was getting.
So you got the standard did we win? Like
Scoreboard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, did we win? Who won? Blah, blah, blah. Like, why are you complaining? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So we hit that point. Then it's that terrible stretch of, we're losing to Taylor Heineke. We're losing to Daniel Jones. And at that point, Rodgers' thumb is messed up. We're at 3-3. Actually, we're at 3-4 is really where it starts to hit, when it's all of them plus Zach Wilson throwing for less than 100 yards in the game and still winning. And I'm like, okay, so they're like, it's not realistic to make the playoffs. I think 538 right now has it like a 5% chance of the Packers making to the playoffs. And one of those percentage points is them winning the division, which is just like, my brain can't even wrap around like how there's a 1% chance of winning the division at this point. So a 4% chance of making the wild card, which to me is the only realistic chance of making the playoff. And so I started looking at the Cowboys game and I'm like, this is our Super Bowl, right around that 3-3, 3-4.
So it's
stretch.
about the timing of things too, beyond the McCarthy factor is what you're saying.
Yeah, because what else do we have to look forward to? Because we're not like, is draft pick gonna help? we have rookies on this team. Doesn't matter. Like, what, we can't really do anything from a team building standpoint. The Packers, I think, the cap is weird because there's like all the, like, when the league year starts and then like when the regular season starts. When the regular season starts, the way this Packers team is set up, even with free agents like Alan Lazard, Elton Jenkins, Robert Tonyan, starting safety Adrian Amos, the Packers are set to be $30 million over the cap. So it's not like this is going to get better next year unless you blow it up and trade Rodgers. And then what does that even look like? Devondre Campbell's doing interviews right now. He's hurt, and he's talking about how Jordan Love is better than some of the starting quarterbacks in this league. We're getting pulled in every direction. And the whole focus is like, circle it. McCarthy's coming back to Lambeau. He's going to drive on a bus on a road to the stadium named after him. He's going to drive on McCarthy Way to Lambeau Field. It's going to be rowdy. Rodgers kind of talked about it this week and has kind of extended an olive branch, I guess is the way to say it. Because there's been a lot of
some thoughts here, but keep going.
Yeah, there's been a lot of, reporting with anonymous sources, and I'm sure some of it's true and some of it is probably not fully explained, right? Like, that's just the nature of like that kind of stuff. About like their relationship. Rodgers even said this week, he wedged in the fact that he's drank ayahuasca like 10 different times while talking about McCarthy. He can't stop talking. He's a college freshman, dude. He got the tattoo. All he can do is, that's not a drug. It's a plant, right? He's lashing out. Doesn't talk to his family very much anymore. Like, he's full-blown college freshman at this point. But he's talked about McCarthy. He said, one of the things that he liked about McCarthy is they could always be direct, right? Mm-hmm. Like, whether they're talking calmly or they're getting to a screaming match, like, it's straight to the point, and after their conversation, it ends in a hug and stuff like that. And he talked about how he hopes the Packers give him a warm welcome. He rattled off like,
oh my gosh,
5 dudes on the Cowboys staff who had coached in Green Bay, like
Scott Tolzien,
Al Harris, all these guys, right? Like, they coaches or players. So he's basically extending an olive branch. I do wonder, would he be calling truce if his team wasn't 5-point underdogs at home?
That's exactly my take. Is like, this is not this way. Like, I actually think so. Something that is wonderful about SB Nation is like the fact that we have all these communities for all these different teams. And so, like, if you're a Cowboys fan and you want to get like the vibes of how Packers fans are feeling, head to Acme Packing Company or whatever the case may be for any given week. And so I don't like this. Like, it's like, it feels like Packers fans, or it feels like Aaron Rodgers specifically, are trying to take the fun away from this. Like, I want to like murder this game. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I want to show no mercy. And I don't like this. And I do feel like if the Packers, if their record were inverse, I feel like Rodgers would be smug about it. Like, and you're somebody, that's what I was getting at, who has been very vocal and very honest about Aaron Rodgers' smugness, smuguity, whatever. And so, like, not a lot of Packers fans are, which is a lesson better than I do. And so I do view this as like, tail tucked between his legs a little bit, like, oh yeah, McCarthy, yeah, we always ended in a hug. That was not the way that Aaron Rodgers spoke about McCarthy. It kind of feels like now that he's got to cash this check, he's not capable of doing so. So he does have to extend an olive branch.
Well, during his ayahuasca trip, he realized they were tethered together. He said, when you make it to a Super Bowl together, you're tied together forever. And now now he's grateful for what he and McCarthy went through.
See, I will never forgive Rodgers for a lot of like pain in my life as a sports fan, but I will also never forgive him for the way, like, you again, a lot of people we work with, we were talking about Stats hates McCarthy. Stats like thinks he's worthless, offers nothing. And I believe personally that presentation is due to the way Rodgers has spoken and the fact that Rodgers has been such an incredible player, has at least had prior to maybe a year ago such a high level of influence in the NFL. He molded and shaped the way a lot of people viewed Mike McCarthy through his arrogance, and some of that was fair. I think you would probably support, but I think some of it was at the very least exaggerated, which is kind of what you were hinting at. So I hate that Aaron is like so weak about this. I mean, I guess Zach Wilson humbled him this much. And you mentioned he's a college freshman. What was like, again, it's such an enjoyable time. Just what was the story about him and was it Graham Harrell that actually went and like partied with college freshmen or whatever?
I don't remember that, but that seems to check out. Yeah.
so yeah, he's become the meme. That's who he is.
The other thing too is it's such a weird spot that they're in, just in general, right? So like with the McCarthy thing, I think some of it is that too. I think the offense in general got stale at the end, which kind of explains some of it. Like,
With McCarthy, you mean?
yes,
Right.
it kind of looked like what it looks like right now with LaFleur. I mean, it looks like a bunch of like, why is Aaron Rodgers throwing a bunch of stuff into the flats, right? And why is he throwing a bunch of slants? Like, can't we do something better with him? Like, that's kind of what it got reduced to at the end. And then you have, I think who was like Tom Brady even said something at one point. I can't remember if it was in a book or what, but he was like, Aaron Rodgers, if he was in my system, like he would have won
right.
everything and like all that stuff. So you had weird things like that. And then, when McCarthy got fired, the assistant head coach came out and was like, we got to start holding Aaron Rodgers accountable, right? He's not being held accountable. Then he tweeted that out, and then he ended up getting canned because of a tweet.
Now he doesn't exist anymore. His social security number is absent from the government, right? Yeah.
It's just it ended on a really bad foot. But I think one thing that Packers fans now look back at with McCarthy and stuff, like the Packers had some pretty bad starts and were able to rally sometimes.
Sure.
Like even 2010. 2010 was not a season that the Packers should have won a Super Bowl. They snuck into the playoffs late as a 7 seed. Like if you guys remember,
6 seed at the time.
6 seed, my bad.
Right.
Yeah. I'm on 7 seed brain now. But like that Deshaun Jackson punt return against the New York Giants, the one that everyone thinks of, if that play doesn't happen, the Packers don't even make the playoffs that year.
Because the Giants have priority over them, is what you're saying.
Exactly. So one thing Packers fans are looking at now, and they're like, this Packers team is soft. Like the LaFleur Packers, they get punched in the face, and it's just like it's done. And that's not how it used to be. So there's some Packers fans right now that are like, look, we're happy with LaFleur, we're happy with the offense. We think the team in general is going to be moving in the right direction with him as the head coach, but there are a couple things that they do miss about Mike McCarthy now. And I think Packers fans are now at the point with Aaron Rodgers where they're the same thing. And they're like, I don't know, truce. I don't think that's going to, but like, again, game of the week, everyone in the country, other than if you live in Southern California or I believe Arizona, is going to get this game, right? It's going to be crazy, blown out of proportion. Aaron Andrews, I'm certain, is going to sit down with Rodgers and McCarthy to talk about it. We'll see if one of them sheds tears.
And they had they had that Super Bowl. Fox did. So Aaron Andrews worked that. Like, so it's just another piece of symmetry, is my point.
And it happened in Dallas.
Right. That's like, and then you've got the Dez caught it, the Jared Cook, like the ice ball.
Yeah, there's
like
plenty of moments.
All
Rodgers first, the first time he got into a game with Rodgers,
which was
with Favre going down.
Right. That was, and they were 1 and 2 seed that year. Mike McCarthy loses the NFC Championship game. The Giants have kind of been like the third head in that little relationship there with both the Cowboys and the Giants, obviously. And Brett Favre was there, who's like, that's the only thing you can really say about Brett right now that is, not the truth in a different way, but whatever. You mentioned the word soft. My perception is I don't think the Packers are soft. I think the Packers are front runners, and I think there's a difference. I think that they're very comfortable when they're in the front, right? Like they're totally about that life, and that's how Aaron Rodgers has been for the last few years. But when the going gets tough, they're not capable of kind of digging themselves out of that hole. Now, you're saying that Packers fans maybe missed that about Mike McCarthy. I think that was the Cowboys' fatal flaw last year. They were soft in that playoff game against the Niners, and they have gotten really tough, and that's been the difference. I mean, the fact that they were able to kind of survive the Cooper Rush, extravaganza, whatever, does separate them. And so do you feel like the collective, like Packers fans are going to like warmly welcome McCarthy back? Because this is the longest possible time it could have been for a rematch, if you want to call it that. I mean, is there enough like time that's passed? And like, A, has there been enough time? And B, does the fact that the Packers are kind of bad right now help this factor with Packers fans?
I think that plus the fact that the Cowboys are having success, right? And you can kind of give Mike some of his flowers and stuff now too. I kind of think it's like a pregame versus in-game thing. Like pregame, they're going to be like, thank you, Mike, all that stuff. They're going to show the stuff on the Jumbotron. If he gets emotional, I wouldn't blame. I mean, I think his family still stays in Wisconsin, at least during certain times of the year and stuff like that. He hung out in Green Bay the year that he was off, out of football and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised about that. But I think once kickoff starts, it's still like,
Right.
oh my God, we need this win so bad. Like we so desperately badly need a win. And the other factor that doesn't get talked about as much because, obviously Mike McCarthy coming back to Lambeau again, driving on a road that is
Right.
named after him, right? Like stuff like that.
Which couldn't happen in any others. Like that's part of the
No.
magic of the Packers and you know what I mean? Like part of the culture that is Green Bay, which again adds to the like you're talking like small town, blue collar, whatever, versus like illustrious, glamorous Dallas Cowboys. It's the ultimate like contradiction in that sense.
Yeah. But the other thing that doesn't get talked about as much, your defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. He was Matt LaFleur's head coach. And next
That's
week,
true.
Thursday Night Football against Mike Vrabel's Tennessee Titans. So they get 5 days. Matt LaFleur goes against, back-to-back former of his head coaches. So it'll be an interesting one.
I would also say to that point, a game that I greatly enjoyed was the 2016 NFC Championship game after the Jared Cook game when when Dan Quinn's Falcons dismantled Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And so like this is a defensive coordinator who I mean also had success against Rodgers in Seattle. Obviously Dan Quinn is amazing, but like so you're talking about like I don't know like who is like I always felt Sean McDermott or Jim Johnson really was Tony Romo's kryptonite. I don't know who I think that is for Dak Prescott quite yet. It's still too early to come to that conclusion. Who's that dude for Aaron Rodgers? Like, what's the tree that he's always struggled against?
Honestly, and with the way that things are trending in the NFL right now, it's kind of a bad break for him. I think he had a lot of success against these, single high teams like that. And I know that's the tree that Quinn comes from, but he's done a lot more in recent years. He's not just sitting back playing cover. I mean, the only guy who does that right now is Gus Bradley. Right. He's basically the only guy who's doing that still. And I guess Jack Del Rio plays pretty simple schemes in the secondary too. But the too high stuff really gave him a lot of problems. And people talk about it as like it was a young Aaron thing. And I think a lot of that is just a product of the fact that like he was playing Lovie Smith twice a year, right? And Lovie Smith was just playing like Tampa 2 just over and over again. Rodgers had struggled.
Which is what Dallas built themselves off of with Rod Marinelli after Monty Kiffin, which I'd never thought about that. That explains how Aaron Rodgers was able to like have so much success. Wow.
Yeah. So I think the too high stuff kind of gives him some problems, especially over the middle of the field. Because for whatever reason, this Packers team just wants to take throws on the outside and the middle at times are wide. I mean, every game we're getting the coach's film and you're like, the bender is wide open over the middle of the field. And Rodgers looked at it and he still didn't throw it. And it's like people have theorized before that like he doesn't like throwing over the middle of the field because he got Jermichael Finley hurt on one of those. And it ended up being what amounted to a career ender for him. So he's kind of doesn't love doing that, but it's like it's open and that's what teams are doing right now. And that's what defenses are making you do. You got to throw over the middle of the field. Tua Tagovailoa right now is a legitimate MVP candidate because McDaniel is just spamming throws in the intermediate range, like 15 yards over the middle of the field, over the football, like just throw it there and teams aren't really covering it right now. And that's kind of the biggest thing for me. If teams are getting into too high and they're trying to like take away the sidelines a little bit and they're not letting you throw deep and you don't want to throw over the middle of the field, then what's left? And it becomes this reductionist. We're throwing into the flats. We're throwing slants. It's like, all right, I guess you're not winning ball games though.
Does a loss on Sunday break the Packers season? Not the like break it where it's like it's alive like completely right now, but like if it's not like if this is like the last sort of beeps of the heart monitor, is this the end? Like because I think it does kind of feel that way from this side of things. Like 7 losses is very difficult to come back from, even in a world where there are 7 seeds. Obviously, the division seems like a foregone conclusion for Minnesota. You know that better than I do. Is this the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak? Because I'm really asking for Cowboys fans who want that juicy, satisfying feeling.
I think, unfortunately, like we're not dead, but like we are mangled on the floor. So, like, what does it do if you pile drive us? I know you guys want that satisfaction, and
Right.
I don't want to take it away from you because it is good to kind of beat down on people when they're down a little bit, especially when they've been yappy like we have been. Came into the year and we're like number 1 defense in the league. Can't believe you guys are doubting us. But yeah, I mean, I don't even think it would hurt that bad because we've already come to peace with death at this
So
point. The one thing is like now, again, because of how bad it has spiraled a couple weeks ago, it definitely was like circle the calendar. We're not making the playoffs. The Dallas Cowboys is our Super Bowl.
right.
At this point, it might just be like, can we go 2-0 against the Bears? That might be our Super Bowl. Is like, can we beat the Bears again? The Bears still suck. The other thing too, the Packers, I think they were 1 game away
And yes,
from taking the all-time lead for wins over the Chicago Bears. And now we haven't won a game since. So like the Bears are building the lead again. If we can get 1 game, like we need to pass the Bears in all-time wins.
Right.
That it's not a game, but like that's my Super Bowl for the season. Just be number 1 all-time at some point during NFL history.
I was literally thinking that. So just in case anyone's unaware, I actually believe it was as the losing streak began. The Packers just needed to win 1 more game to pass the Bears all time, as you mentioned. And since then, not only have the Packers not won, but I think the Bears have won 1 game since. So the gap has grown. So you actually have more work.
It's doubled.
Yes, exactly. Wow, that's really funny. So like you're such a fascinating NFL mind, which is why again people should listen to you and KP and Stats on the SB Nation NFL show. The way I think you feel about this game, and I didn't realize this until this past weekend, is the way that I felt about the Eagles game. And that's a little bit different because it's a division rivalry, and so you're guaranteed to see them again. And certainly in this case, Cowboys fans were guaranteed to see them at home. But like Eagles fans were juiced, right? Like, oh, here come the, it was like, it's Cooper Rush, dude. Like, yeah, like we were optimistic and excited, but like there was an understood ceiling on that game. So like afterwards, when Eagles fans are like taking this victory lap, it was like, well, duh, like like yeah, like we kind of thought we could win, but like we knew the truth, and so it does. I mean, and the reason I think that that's the truth is because the Eagles are our little brother, and the reality is the Packers are our big brother, and so like I'm kind of excited at the opportunity to knock Big Brother down.
Yeah, that's where you go to the old college football, like we don't storm the field in October, right? You do that whole thing and you're like, wow, can't believe you guys got up for this game. Right. I mean, Packers fans, don't get me wrong, like they want to win. They desperately, I mean, look at how much complaining we got at the trade deadline about not sending more than a 2nd-round pick for Chase Claypool. And
who's gonna help grow that lead, by the way, for the
Bears. and the fact that like they were all trying to trade a 1st-round pick for DJ Moore, and people were like, well, you got to get something done. Goot didn't get it done. It doesn't matter. All that stuff. Like this Packers team desperately wanted, or Packers fans desperately wanted someone to come in and save the season. Like they still want to believe, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I think a lot of people have kind of come to terms with that at this point.
Well, thankfully, the Packers, correct me if I'm wrong, will be wearing their normal jerseys for this game, unlike the last Cowboys trip to Lambeau, which were the horrible throwbacks. Are you a fan of those?
No, I don't like throwbacks. I don't like any throwback really that they want. The only throwback I want them to go to is like the like Favre era throwbacks.
Well, it's the same jersey but like different font.
It's just like more stripes. Right. More stripes on the shoulders.
Right.
Players at the time were wearing like yellow accents too. You get like the Sterling Sharp, like double yellow wristband with the gloves. Right. I like the yellow. The yellow accents are better. James Jones used to do it. Jair does it now. The yellow accents need to come back.
It's different for you because you see it all the time, but like it's hard when you don't watch a lot of yellow and then like dudes are wearing yellow flags or yellow cleats and they look like flags. Like it's a difficult thing.
USC kills me. I watch college football on Saturdays, and USC has gone from everyone looks the same, like traditional USC era, to you have guys in yellow tights, guys in black tights, guys in yellow white tights, and I'm like, this is too much, and it's too bright. Lincoln Riley, how dare you?
That's true. You're not the first person to ask Lincoln Riley, how dare you? Granted, the context has been different in many different times. Wow. Okay, Justis, some last rapid fire ones. Number one, you mentioned college football. Why did Jalen Jelks not work out for the Cowboys?
I don't think he was a great prospect. Good for him, but yeah, he's definitely not the best pass rusher I've seen at Oregon.
That's your team. So I just figured, there aren't a
sir.
lot of Oregon Ducks that wind up on the Cowboys. So I just, a lot of people were excited. He got the kiss of death. He was given Bob Lilly's number 74. That typically, if that's your number in camp, they're not planning on you sticking around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Next up, your Madden connected franchise team. It's been a big thing on Twitter. Do you have any Cowboys? I haven't taken a look at like your whole roster. And if not, would you want any? Would you want to swing a deal?
Would I want to swing a deal? Actually, I have Diggs, the corner.
You said that so like nonchalantly, like, oh yeah, they have that one dude. Like he's one of the best corners in the NFL.
Look, Madden ratings are different. I'm still trying to develop him a little bit. I beat who did I beat? Oh, Steven Ruiz in the Super Bowl, undefeated, 20-0. Beat the Miami Dolphins. They only went 19-0 or whatever that season. So we got it done.
Look at you. All right. Anything else? Anything else you want to say? Anything that's on your mind, on your heart?
If I'm excited for you guys to see the David Bakhtiari roller coaster live, because it has been insane. I mean, he's played one full game since he.
I just can't believe that all the players wearing the T-shirt for him didn't inspire an incredible return.
Dude, so last game, healthy enough to play, plays the first half, gets a target on the goal line that ends up getting intercepted because Aaron Rodgers underthrows it. Second half doesn't play the rest of the game. We're like, okay, he's done until the 2-minute drive, and he's magically healthy enough to play football again. I have no idea what's going on with this dude. That's the worst contract in football, I think. He got a massive deal, and then
what about Aaron Rodgers?
2 weeks
contract?
Later got hurt. Aaron, at least you could trade it. You can't even trade the Bakhtiari contract, man.
That's my last one. You tweeted out, I don't remember at what part of the Colts madness it was, because there's been different checkpoints.
It was when I remember Jeff Saturday actually played in Green Bay, and I was like, oh yeah. And then he got benched, but still went to the Pro Bowl that year. And
did he get one of the Pro Bowl moments where he got to go snap? That was him, right? He went and snapped for Peyton.
Him.
Yeah,
even though they were on the other team.
Right, and everybody was like, "This is so cool, sportsmanship." Well, yeah, I couldn't remember
that dude got benched for Evan Dietrich Smith halfway through the year. Why are we giving him this send off?
But what's your actual? We're recording this November 9th, so like understanding that. But what's your is Aaron Rodgers a Packer next year?
I have no idea, but if he wants out, I think the Packers are at the point where
you have to cross that bridge.
Damn, yeah. We might as well, because again, the cap situation, right? I already talked about that a little bit. I don't think this team is going to get that much better next year, considering the guys who are leaving and the fact that, I mean, these young guys aren't taking up to it extremely quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they spent a first-round pick on Devontae Wyatt, who plays like 5 snaps a game, right? It's not great. You trade 2 second-round picks for Christian Watson. He's on his 5th injury of the season. So,
but his dad played in the NFL. How cool was that? So,
oh my goodness, yeah, there's a whole lot of that. Yeah. So in general, it's like if Aaron wants a trade, and for a team to acquire Aaron, it's actually pretty palatable. The Packers to trade him, it would have to be post June 1, but like he's taking his summers anyway. He's maxing out on he's maxing out on vacation time, so you don't have to worry about that. So I don't know. I mean, if someone calls and he finds a spot and he wants to do it, I think the team at this point would be like, all right, let's
Indianapolis makes sense. You came at it from the Jeff Saturday perspective. I don't know if he even thought about this, but like if that were the like hypothetical, like the Pat McAfee show can be live every week. You know what I mean?
Like he tried to like swing him to Indianapolis over the offseason.
Right.
Colts fans thought they were gonna get him because of McAfee. Steelers fans thought they were gonna get him because of McAfee. He's from the area.
Ginza, yeah.
So it was all that, and then Denver, which they ended up hiring his former offensive coordinator as the head coach. So it's all these teams with like ties with Aaron Rodgers or Green Bay in some way that are like think that they have a run, and now they got a foot in the door with Indiana. I mean, if you're Jim Irsay, and this whole thing is about, hey, we have a foot in the door to recruit Aaron Rodgers, That makes a whole lot more sense than like we just thought Jeff Saturday was super qualified to coach this team, right?
Right. I
So
agree. I do. So let me be very clear. I'm much more willing to say that Russell Wilson's washed than Aaron Rodgers, and part of that
yeah,
is like personal scar tissue. That being said, not enough is made about Denver, like their top two, paths were Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Like what sort of like evaluation is happening in that building? You know what I mean? Like if they like, what if they had missed on Russ and landed on Rodgers? I mean, like
yeah.
I don't know that it wouldn't be as embarrassing, at least like in a corny way, but it would probably be still just as bad. And Hackett would have even less control, which is kind of amazing to think about. Wow. Justis, I'm not going to ask you for a score prediction because that's lame, and we both think this is going one way. So instead, I'll ask you for a recommendation of a show or movie to watch.
Ooh, Coherence. It's a movie. It's kind of like horror thrillery, sci-fi. It's pretty good. Very underrated. I don't know why. That's
Like, where's it at? Is it
on
on like Netflix? Like, you got to help us out.
Coherence is on Coherence. Let me spell it right. It is on Tubi, which is free.
Look at that. Another app. You want my devices to be overwhelmed with another app. Wow.
Use desktop. Watch it on desktop. Have it in 1/3 of the corner of your screen, like I do.
I think that's so weird when people watch stuff on their computer. My wife does that. Like she'll watch her like Netflix shows and stuff like on her actual like laptop. And like, why are you doing that? Like that's weird. Use a tablet. You know what I mean?
I am the champion of that. Again, I just have it minimized on the side of my screen, and then I do other stuff on the other side. Wow. I'm a sicko. You know how like people listen to music while they write? I can't do that. So I just end up having just random horror movies and thrillers on the side.
See, I want to like listen to podcasts while I write, but then I get like I start
the
listening.
Words get jumbled. Yeah,
it's too difficult. Well, one of the things you do while you watch horror movies seemingly is run Acme Packing Company. Justis is the best. Like I said, one of my fearless leaders, but I won't tell anybody how because that's mine and your secret for us to know. On Twitter, I don't know how to like enunciate this. Like I would only know how to spell like JUMOSK. I've never like phonetically said that out loud. How do you like say your Twitter handle out loud?
So I say Jew Mosque because I think
I was gonna say Ja Mosque instead of Jew.
Oh, that's true. That's like whenever I spell Justo and people think I say Justo. I say Jew Mosque. I think it's funny. We got Jew, we got Mosque. I was raised a Catholic. Just doesn't really make any sense at all. And it's how you spell my name. So that's how I did it.
Justis Mosqueda, the one and only. Thanks so much for joining us. I wish eternal just sadness.
Damnation on me? Yeah.
I almost said the word damnation, but eternal damnation on your football team. But not on Oregon, certainly. But I wish you health, wealth, and happiness, certainly. So
thank you. I need Oregon not to make the playoff. I need us to be the 5 seed and we get Illinois in a Rose Bowl. That's all I'm rooting for at this point.
Sounds good.
I don't want to lose to Georgia by 50 again.
Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day.